Welcome to Caring Matters webcast. I'm Liz Tassone, and I'm here again with Sister Jeanette Jabour. And the topic we want to cover now is about aging as a spiritual journey. And I first wanted to ask you, Sister, I know this is a broad topic, so is there any kind of intro you want to talk about before we get started?
Well, as you said, Liz, the topic of aging as a spiritual journey is really that. It's a total journey. It's broad because it occurs in each person over a lifetime. So I believe it's important to believe in the journey as a whole. But in this section, we look at just some parts of that journey. Perhaps the significance of memory, the value of affirmation, how connecting with another contributes to faith development.
Okay.
I think that might be, I'm not sure we'll get into
Okay.
suffering and all that other good stuff.
Okay, very good. Well, let's begin with a question about, you say that the elderly bridge us to our roots and to our common heritage by recalling memories and meaning and significance of the major events in life. So what place do you see as memories for a person?
I think memories are a key element in a person's life. They're a way of continuing the power and the richness of any life that has touched us. And you get in touch with that again. It can be a source of peace, an experience of God's love in our lives, but it can also be a source of pain and unresolved conflict. So you see, it has a lot to do with the whole life review. All of these need to be remembered and dealt with before any reconciliation, healing, and celebration can happen. I think for many, life can feel incomplete if there is no avenue for sharing memories. I feel sorry for anybody that does not have that avenue. Therefore, an appropriate awareness and understanding of the use of memory can be the greatest contribution we can make to help another one integrate and heal in life.
Okay, you're saying then as a caregiver, we can take this opportunity to be with our loved one as a time to kind of reflect and look at their memories. And you're saying don't ignore don't just be about the good memories, but also be willing to invite the not so good memories of a person's life.
Right. And if there's a level of discomfort doing that with the relative, finding another avenue would not be a bad idea.
Such as, what would you mean by that?
Well, maybe a spiritual director or a counselor or somebody that's a good listener as a friend. That might be hard for a son or daughter to do, but if it helps, I think that would be a gift to the person. Does that make sense? Because I don't know if every single son, daughter, and parent would have that comfort. It would be nice. It would be nice if we did, but I know it's not a comfortable thing. But I know there are other avenues to go to the pastor in church or somebody they had in school or another friend, friend that they trust. There has to be a level of trust before somebody. Now, some memories are wonderful to share and share openly, but others might not be that wonderful. But they may need to be shared because that's a part of a person's life, and they may need to do that in order to move on in life.
Okay. So what you're saying is a caregiver has a unique ability to kind of invite this kind of life sharing that an older adult might be moving into a phase where they want to kind of look back and reflect on their life and kind of, it's a looking back. Right. Memories are.
Actually, I think most people know whom they can trust with that story.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I think I feel safe in saying that. Most people would know whom they can trust to tell. But I do think that it's important to do.
Okay.
for many people. Some don't think it is, and that's all right. But I've seen in many people the lightness that comes after they have shared something that was inside, good or not good.
Good or bad.
It's just it's like putting some credit to having that, some things that it was important enough, and then somebody else listens and makes that, yes, it really was important.
So as a caregiver, what you're saying, if you think there's some, if I think there's some areas that I would be uncomfortable talking about with my loved one, or I think they would be resistant, that I'm instead, if I'm looking out for the person's well-being, might offer to find someone that's maybe skilled as a listener. You mentioned spiritual director, someone that, a pastor, someone that maybe has those skills in listening, and that would help that older adult process.
Or somebody at Catholic Charities that might know somebody, you never know.
Yeah, okay. And oftentimes you're saying that might be someone through their church that they're maybe more comfortable with, or
now, if they happen to be in a nursing home or a facility of some kind, that might be easier because there might be somebody there working there in that capacity, or someone who they trust, a social worker or a pastoral person. You never know who that person is, but I think people know inside whom they can trust with what's going on in there.
Very
I
good.
would give us all credit for that.
Very good. So what you're saying essentially is a way of honoring a lifetime of experience, and that's a gesture of affirmation that contributes overall to the well-being of this individual. So talk to me a little bit about the affirmation that happens at this time.
When visiting somebody, I think that comes by acknowledging the beauty of one's life as lived in the presence of God. We're talking about spiritual journey here. By reinstating the sense of a person's belonging to a larger group, like a family, a parish, a neighborhood. So often a person might feel isolated if they're in bed, or if they're not well, or not in bed but can't get out. They don't feel part of a larger group, in a sense that which perhaps they once felt when they were able to be part of a group. I think it's very important to give that affirmation by acknowledging how we are touched by their lives and how enriched we are in visiting. I think that brings both parties closer to God. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. So what you're saying is the more that this person, a caregiver, can give the affirmation to this person as their life exactly as it was lived, the more they can have a sense of fulfillment as that their life had meaning.
That's right.
Yeah, that both their past and their current
Because
life
if
has
at
meaning.
some point they might not feel that because they're separated, they don't see a lot of people, they don't get out to go to church, they can't go golfing with the guys, they can't, they get out. And sometimes you get kind of closed in on yourself and forget that you had this life. Does that relate to the same question? Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then one of the questions was, from a caregiver's point of view, is how does a visit with an older adult help me as a caregiver in my own faith development?
Okay. If we really listen, by contact with and by listening to stories of elders. I don't know if we get into a lot of stories, but I think it's important. If we really listen, we learn a whole lot about love, faith, forgiveness, and acceptance. I really think it's difficult to listen to the story of another person and not make some connection with one's own life. And I think I get that from my parents, listening to my parents' stories. They had stories galore of how they escaped from Beirut, Lebanon, found a new home in America, and how they felt they were led along the way by God. This has strengthened my own faith journey. Because if they could hear and follow God in these extraordinary circumstances, I certainly can hear God's voice in ordinary and possibly extraordinary circumstances. But I do think it's a very important thing to, there's a big connection between one's story and one's faith development.
And what you're saying is listening to another story can enhance your own sense of story and understanding God in your own life.
I do. I have felt that. It has helped me a lot because I think I'm a good listener. I've listened to a lot of people, but how often their stories have helped me in my own reflection of my own life is really a gift. It's a real gift.
What I hear is that it's inspiration. So your parents' story was inspiring to you.
Very
so with
inspiring.
Spirit gave you
Very inspiring.
a gift by just being part of that. So what you're saying is sometimes when we listen to another story, we're willing to sit and listen to an elder's story, we come away richer.
Right.
And we can relate it to our own lives and kind of put ourselves into how have I listened to God? How have I done this? How have I forgiven another? And kind of we enhance ourselves.
My mother was a good storyteller, and they tell me I was a lot like my mother, so I thought I better be a good storyteller.
I think you're a good storyteller, which is why you're a book author. You're telling stories. And stories how we relate to each other. So I think that's good.
Everybody has a story. And people that don't think they do, I'm sorry. I feel bad for them. But if you talk to them long enough, I think they realize they do have a story.
Yeah.
I think everybody should have a book published about their life. Everybody.
It's a way to reflect on your own journey.
You were here. You did something. You left some mark, someplace, And it's good if you know that, but if I feel bad if people don't know that. So
your charge now is to go write a book about yourself. Or maybe help the one you're visiting, the older adult in your life, write their own story.
I'm trying to get them to do that. There's a lot of people, even at Bailey Place, I visit a lot of people, and their stories are magnificent. And I remember once an older gentleman who's kind of moping around in his wheelchair, and I went and looked some stuff up. It was at Bailey. And I met him one day, and I said, "Jim, I heard you were a captain of a ship." Man, I thought he was going to get out of his chair and go right out of the room. And he had been sitting. I didn't think he could even walk. So we had many stories. He was a captain of a ship.
And that brought him alive.
That brought him alive.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there thinking he's worth nothing. Now he's worth plenty. It's all in there. And it just takes a question sometimes to bring that out in people. And that could happen between daughter and mother. Maybe didn't have time to learn all that when we were growing up. But now's a good time. And that gives mother a chance to share, or dad a chance to share and leave something behind.
Very good.
So when you're sharing, you leave something behind.
Very good.
You're not taking it with you.
It's a way to bring meaning to this relationship, too. It's a great interaction and connection.
Yes, I think it's marvelous.
So thank you very much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll wait for her book on her life coming out soon, huh? I think we'd all buy it. So I'm Liz Tessone. I want to thank you for listening. I also want to thank our sponsors that are listed on this page. And of course, I want to thank our guest, Sister Jeanette Jabour. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And always remember that caring matters.